In the final desperate months of World War II, as the Third Reich crumbled and Allied armies closed in from all sides, a legend was born, one that would outlast the war itself and ignite the imaginations of treasure hunters, historians, and conspiracy theorists for generations. It is the story of the Nazi gold train, a mysterious armored locomotive said to be loaded with gold, priceless art, and stolen treasures, hidden deep beneath the mountains of Poland as Hitler's empire collapsed. For decades, the truth behind the Nazi gold train has remained one of WWII's greatest unsolved mysteries. Is it real, or just a myth? And if it exists, what secrets might it hold? To understand the origins of the Nazi gold train legend, we must first look at the scale of Nazi looting during the war. From the earliest days of the Third Reich, Hitler and his inner circle were obsessed with wealth, power, and the spoils of conquest. As German armies swept across Europe, they plundered everything of value: gold reserves, currency, jewels, religious artifacts, and, most infamously, the art collections of occupied nations and persecuted peoples. The Nazis established entire agencies dedicated to the systematic theft of cultural treasures, from the grandest paintings in Paris to the smallest family heirlooms in Warsaw. The looting was not random. It was organized, methodical, and often directed from the very top. Hitler himself fancied becoming the world's greatest art collector, envisioning a vast museum in his hometown of Linz, Austria, filled with masterpieces stolen from across Europe. Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe and one of the Reich's most powerful men, amassed a personal collection of thousands of stolen works. The SS, under Heinrich Himmler, seized gold and valuables from the victims of the Holocaust, melting down wedding rings and dental fillings to fund the Nazi war machine. By 1944, as the tide of war turned against Germany, the question of what to do with this mountain of stolen wealth became urgent. The Allies were advancing from the west, the Soviets from the east, and the Nazi leadership knew that defeat was inevitable. In a frenzy of secrecy and paranoia, orders were given to hide, move, or destroy the Reich's treasures before they could fall into enemy hands. Some gold was sent to Swiss banks, some art was hidden in salt mines and castles, and some, according to legend, was loaded onto a heavily guarded train and sent into the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the Owl Mountains in southwestern Poland. The region around the city of Wałbrzych, then known as Waldenburg, was a natural fortress. The Owl Mountains are riddled with caves, mines, and secret passages, many of which were expanded by the Nazis during the war as part of a massive construction project known as Ries, German for giant. The true purpose of Project Ries remains a subject of debate among historians. Some believe it was intended as a network of underground factories and command centers, safe from Allied bombs. Others suspect it was meant to house secret weapons, or even serve as a last redoubt for Hitler himself. It is here, in the shadowy depths of the Owl Mountains, that the legend of the Nazi gold train takes root. According to the most popular version of the story, as Soviet forces approached in the spring of 1945, a special train was assembled in the city of Breslau, now Wrocław, loaded with gold, jewels, and priceless works of art. The train, heavily armored and guarded by SS troops, set out for Wałbrzych, where it was supposedly driven into a hidden tunnel, sealed behind walls of concrete and explosives. The soldiers who accompanied the train were either killed or vanished, and the secret of its location was lost in the chaos of the war's end. For years, the story of the Nazi gold train was little more than a rumor, whispered among locals and dismissed by most historians as a fanciful tale. But in the decades that followed, tantalizing clues began to emerge. In the 1950s and 60s, Polish authorities received anonymous tips about hidden tunnels and buried treasure. Old maps surfaced, marked with cryptic symbols and references to special transports. Survivors of the war, both Polish and German, told stories of mysterious convoys, secret construction sites, and sudden disappearances. The legend gained new life in the 1970s, when a series of discoveries in the Owl Mountains seemed to confirm that the Nazis had indeed built vast underground complexes in the region. Explorers found miles of tunnels, some large enough to drive trains through, reinforced with concrete and steel. In some places, the tunnels were flooded or collapsed, their entrances sealed with rubble and explosives. The Polish government, wary of the dangers and the potential for looting, restricted access to many of these sites, fueling speculation that something valuable was still hidden within. The search for the Nazi gold train became an obsession for a new generation of treasure hunters. Armed with metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, and a sense of adventure, they scoured the forests and hills around Wałbrzych, following every lead and rumor. Some claim to have found traces of the train, anomalies in the earth, echoes of metal beneath the ground, or even the faint outline of tracks leading into a hillside. Others dismissed these findings as wishful thinking or the result of natural geological formations. Yet, the allure of the Nazi gold train was impossible to resist. The idea that a fortune in gold and art, stolen from the victims of the Holocaust and the nations of Europe, might still be hidden in the mountains of Poland captured the world's imagination. Journalists, filmmakers, and historians flocked to Wałbrzych, hoping to uncover the truth. The local economy boomed with the influx of tourists and treasure seekers, even as officials cautioned that the legend might be nothing more than a myth. But for those who believe, the search continues. The Nazi gold train is more than just a story of lost treasure. It is a window into the darkest chapters of history, a symbol of the greed and brutality of the Third Reich, and a reminder that some secrets refuse to stay buried. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the evidence for and against the existence of the train, the most famous searches and discoveries, and the enduring mystery that keeps the legend alive. The legend of the Nazi gold train is not just a tale of hidden treasure. It is a story woven from fragments of history, eyewitness accounts, and the enduring scars of war. As the decades passed after 1945, the line between fact and fiction blurred, but the clues and rumors only multiplied. To understand why so many believe the train is real, we must examine the evidence, the testimonies, and the discoveries that have kept the world searching for Hitler's lost fortune. One of the earliest and most persistent sources of the legend comes from the people who lived in the region during the war's final days. As the Red Army advanced, the German population of Silesia, then part of the Third Reich, was thrown into chaos. Refugees fled westward, Nazi officials burned documents, and entire towns were abandoned overnight. In this confusion, stories began to circulate of a mysterious train, loaded with valuables, seen heading toward the mountains. Some claim to have watched as the train disappeared into a tunnel near Wałbrzych, its entrance quickly sealed by soldiers and laborers. These accounts were often secondhand, passed from neighbor to neighbor, but a few came from individuals who claimed to have been directly involved. In the 1950s, a Polish miner named Stanisław Stolarz told authorities that he had helped build a secret tunnel for the Germans in 1944. He described a massive underground chamber, large enough to hide a train, and said he had seen crates marked with Nazi symbols being unloaded from trucks. Stolarz's story was never fully verified, but it matched other reports from the era, accounts of forced labor, secret construction, and sudden disappearances. The Polish government, aware of the rumors and eager to recover any hidden wealth, launched several investigations in the years after the war. Teams of engineers and soldiers searched the forests and hills around Wałbrzych, drilling into the earth and exploring abandoned tunnels. In some cases, they found evidence of Nazi construction, reinforced concrete walls, ventilation shafts, and even sections of narrow-gauge railway. But no gold, no train, and no definitive proof of the legend's truth. Despite these setbacks, the search continued. In the 1970s and 80s, as Poland opened up to the west, a new wave of treasure hunters arrived. Some were professionals, equipped with the latest technology. Others were amateurs, driven by dreams of fortune and adventure. They scoured the region with metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, and old wartime maps. Occasionally, they found artifacts, rusted weapons, helmets, and even crates of documents, but the gold train remained elusive. The most dramatic moment in the search came in 2015, when two amateur explorers, Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter, announced that they had found evidence of the train's location. Using ground-penetrating radar, they claimed to have detected a 100-meter-long object buried beneath a hillside near Wałbrzych. The news made headlines around the world. Polish officials, caught between skepticism and hope, launched a formal investigation. Excavators and geologists descended on the site, watched by crowds of journalists and treasure hunters. For weeks, the world waited as the hillside was carefully dug and scanned. But when the dust settled, the results were inconclusive. The radar images, it turned out, showed only natural geological formations, layers of rock and sand that had fooled the equipment. No train, no gold, and no treasure. The disappointment was palpable, but the legend endured. For every failed search, new rumors emerged, new maps surfaced, and new witnesses came forward. Why does the story persist? Part of the answer lies in the nature of the evidence. The Nazi regime was notorious for its secrecy and its destruction of records. As the war ended, countless documents were burned, and many of those who knew the truth were killed or disappeared. The chaos of the final months, with millions of people on the move and entire cities in ruins, created the perfect conditions for secrets to be hidden and for legends to be born. But there is also a deeper reason. The Nazi gold train is not just a story about lost treasure, it is a symbol of the crimes and horrors of the Third Reich. The gold and art that may lie hidden in the mountains were stolen from the victims of the Holocaust, from occupied nations, and from families who never saw their possessions again. The search for the train is, in some ways, a search for justice, a hope that what was stolen can be recovered, and that the truth can finally be known. The legend has also been fueled by the discovery of other Nazi treasures. In the years after the war, Allied forces uncovered vast caches of gold, art, and valuables hidden in salt mines, castles, and even lakes. The most famous of these was the Merkers salt mine in Germany, where U.S. troops found over 100 tons of gold bars, currency, and priceless works of art. In Austria, the Altaussee salt mine yielded thousands of paintings, sculptures, and rare books, many destined for Hitler's planned museum in Linz. These discoveries proved that the Nazis had both the means and the motive to hide their loot, and that some of it might still be out there. The search for the Nazi gold train has become a part of the region's identity. In Wałbrzych, local businesses catered to treasure hunters and tourists, offering guided tours of the tunnels and museums filled with wartime relics. The Polish government, while cautious, has supported archaeological surveys and historical research. For many, the legend is a source of pride, a reminder that their homeland is at the center of one of history's greatest mysteries. Yet, the search is not without controversy. Some historians warn that the obsession with the gold train distracts from the real history of the war, the suffering of the people, the destruction of cities, and the crimes of the Nazis. Others worry about the dangers of amateur treasure hunting, which can damage archaeological sites and put lives at risk. There are also ethical questions. If the train is ever found, who owns the treasure? The Polish state? The descendants of the victims? The world at large? Despite these debates, the hunt continues. Every year, new teams arrive in the Owl Mountains, armed with better technology and fresh determination. They dig, scan, and explore, driven by the hope that they will be the ones to solve the mystery. For some, it is a quest for riches. For others, a mission to uncover the truth. In the next section, we will follow the most famous expeditions and discoveries, meet the people who have dedicated their lives to the search, and explore the impact of the legend on the local community and the world. The search for the Nazi gold train has drawn a remarkable cast of characters: adventurers, historians, engineers, and dreamers, each with their own reasons for chasing the legend. Some are motivated by the promise of unimaginable wealth, others by a sense of justice or a passion for history. Over the decades, their expeditions have ranged from the meticulously scientific to the wildly speculative, but all have contributed to the enduring fascination with Hitler's lost treasure. One of the earliest organized searches took place in the 1950s, when the Polish government, still recovering from the devastation of war, launched a series of official investigations. Teams of soldiers and engineers combed the forests and hills around Wałbrzych, following up on tips from local residents and former German soldiers. They drilled into hillsides, explored abandoned tunnels, and even used explosives to clear blocked passages. In some cases, they found evidence of Nazi construction, reinforced concrete walls, ventilation shafts, and sections of narrow-gauge railway, but the gold train itself remained elusive. In the 1970s, as Poland's borders opened to Western visitors, a new wave of treasure hunters arrived. Among them was a German engineer named Heinz Schöning, who spent years mapping the tunnels and interviewing witnesses. Schoning's meticulous research uncovered a wealth of information about Project Reis, the massive Nazi construction effort in the Owl Mountains. He documented the existence of miles of underground passages, some large enough to accommodate trains, and collected stories from locals who remembered seeing mysterious convoys and armed guards during the war. Schoning's work convinced many that the legend of the gold train was rooted in fact, even if the treasure itself remained hidden. The most sensational chapter in the search began in 2015, when Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter, two amateur explorers from Poland and Germany, announced that they had found evidence of the train's location. Using ground-penetrating radar, they claimed to have detected a 100-meter-long object buried beneath a hillside near Wałbrzych. Their announcement made headlines around the world, sparking a media frenzy and a new wave of speculation. The Polish government, caught between skepticism and hope, launched a formal investigation, bringing in geologists, archaeologists, and military engineers to survey the site. For weeks, the world watched as excavators and scientists worked their way through the hillside. The site was cordoned off and security was tight, with police and soldiers guarding against looters and curiosity seekers. Journalists camped nearby, hoping for a glimpse of gold or a dramatic discovery. But as the digging progressed, it became clear that the radar images were not what they seemed. The train turned out to be a natural geological formation, layers of rock and sand that had fooled the equipment. No gold, no train, and no treasure. The disappointment was palpable, but the legend endured. Despite the setback, the 2015 search had a profound impact on the region. Wałbrzych, once a quiet industrial town, was transformed by the influx of tourists, journalists, and treasure hunters. Local businesses boomed, offering guided tours of the tunnels, gold-themed souvenirs, and exhibitions of wartime relics. The story of the Nazi gold train became a point of pride for the community, a symbol of resilience and mystery that drew visitors from around the world. The search also inspired a new generation of explorers, armed with the latest technology and a determination to succeed where others had failed. Teams used advanced ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and even drones to scan the forests and hills. Some focused on the known tunnels of Project Reis, mapping their extent and searching for hidden chambers. Others followed up on old maps, wartime documents, and the testimonies of aging witnesses. Each new expedition brought fresh hope and fresh controversy. The impact of the legend extended far beyond Poland. In Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, researchers scoured archives for clues about the fate of Nazi loot. In Israel and the United States, organizations representing Holocaust survivors and their descendants pressed for answers about the stolen gold and art. International legal experts debated the question of ownership. If the train were ever found, who would have the right to claim its contents? The Polish state? The heirs of the victims? The world at large? The search for the Nazi gold train also raised difficult ethical questions. Some historians warned that the obsession with treasure hunting risked overshadowing the real history of the war, the suffering of millions, the destruction of cities, and the crimes of the Nazis. Others pointed out the dangers of amateur excavations, which could damage archaeological sites or even trigger unexploded ordnance left over from the war. The Polish government, mindful of these risks, imposed strict regulations on searches, requiring permits and oversight by professional archaeologists. Yet for many, the legend was too powerful to resist. The idea that a fortune in gold and art stolen from the victims of the Holocaust and the nations of Europe might still be hidden in the mountains of Poland was a story that demanded to be told, and perhaps solved. The search became a quest not just for treasure, but for justice, closure, and the truth. Personal stories abound among those who have dedicated their lives to the hunt. Some are driven by family history, a grandfather who worked on the tunnels, a relative who vanished in the chaos of 1945. Others are motivated by a sense of adventure, the thrill of discovery, or the hope of making history. For many, the search is its own reward, a way to connect with the past, to honor the memory of those who suffered, and to keep alive the hope that some secrets can still be uncovered. The legend of the Nazi gold train has also left its mark on popular culture. Books, documentaries, and films have dramatized the story, blending fact and fiction in ways that both inform and entertain. The image of an armored train, loaded with gold and art, vanishing into a secret tunnel as the world collapses around it, has become an enduring symbol of the mysteries of World War II. In the next section, we will explore the broader context of Nazi looting and hidden treasures, the fate of other lost riches from the war, and the ongoing efforts to recover what was stolen. We will also examine the impact of the legend on the people of Wałbrzych and the world, and consider what the search for the Nazi gold train tells us about our relationship with history, memory, and the past. The legend of the Nazi gold train is just one chapter in the much larger story of Nazi looting and the fate of Europe's lost treasures. As the Third Reich expanded across the continent, its agents systematically plundered the wealth of occupied nations, private citizens, museums, and religious institutions. The scale of the theft was staggering. Billions of dollars worth of gold, currency, jewels, and priceless works of art vanished into the Nazi war machine. Some of these treasures were recovered after the war, but much remains missing to this day, fueling countless searches, legal battles, and stories of hidden riches. The Nazis' obsession with art and gold was driven by both ideology and greed. Hitler, an aspiring artist in his youth, dreamed of building the world's greatest museum in Linz, Austria, filled with masterpieces stolen from across Europe. His agents, led by the infamous art thief Hermann Göring and the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, scoured galleries, private collections, and even churches for anything of value. Paintings by Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Da Vinci were seized alongside medieval icons, rare manuscripts, and ancient sculptures. The gold, meanwhile, came from the reserves of conquered nations, the vaults of banks, and the personal belongings of millions of victims. Wedding rings, coins, and even dental fillings melted down to fund the Nazi war effort. As the Allies closed in, the Nazis scrambled to hide their loot. Some treasures were sent to Swiss banks or secret accounts in neutral countries. Others were hidden in salt mines, caves, and remote castles. The Merkers salt mine in Germany yielded over 100 tons of gold and currency, along with crates of priceless art, when it was discovered by U.S. troops in 1945. The Altosee salt mine in Austria, immortalized in the film The Monuments Men, contained thousands of paintings and sculptures, many destined for Hitler's museum. In France, the Château de Chambord and other castles became temporary warehouses for looted art. Yet for every treasure recovered, many more disappeared. The chaos of the war's final months, the destruction of records, and the deaths of key witnesses created the perfect conditions for secrets to be buried, sometimes literally. In Poland, the tunnels of Project Reis and the mountains around Wałbrzych became the focus of speculation. But similar stories emerged elsewhere, rumors of Nazi gold at the bottom of Austrian lakes, in the forests of Bavaria, or hidden in the ruins of Berlin. The search for these lost treasures has become a global enterprise. Governments, museums, and private organizations have dedicated decades to tracking down stolen art and gold. The process is painstaking, involving the study of wartime documents, interviews with survivors, and the use of modern technology to scan and excavate suspected hiding places. Legal battles over ownership are common, with heirs of Holocaust victims fighting to reclaim family heirlooms and nations seeking the return of their cultural heritage. In recent years, advances in technology have given new hope to treasure hunters and historians alike. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and 3D mapping have made it possible to explore underground sites without the need for dangerous and destructive digging. In some cases, these tools have led to remarkable discoveries: hidden rooms, sealed vaults, and even caches of art and valuables. But the Nazi gold train, if it exists, remains elusive. The impact of the legend on the people of Wałbrzych and the surrounding region has been profound. The search for the train has brought international attention, tourism, and investment to an area once known mainly for its coal mines and factories. Local businesses have embraced the legend, offering tours of the tunnels, exhibitions of wartime artifacts, and gold-themed souvenirs. The story has become a source of pride and identity, a reminder that their homeland is at the center of one of history's greatest mysteries. But the legend has also brought challenges. The influx of treasure hunters and tourists has put pressure on local infrastructure and raised concerns about the preservation of historical sites. Some residents worry that the focus on the gold train overshadows the real history of the war, the suffering of the people, the destruction of communities, and the crimes of the Nazis. Others point to the dangers of amateur excavations, which can damage archaeological sites or even trigger unexploded ordnance left over from the war. The ethical questions surrounding the search are complex. If the train is ever found, who should own its contents? The Polish state, as the successor to the territory where the treasure is hidden? The heirs of the victims whose gold and art were stolen? The world at large, as a matter of historical justice? International law offers few clear answers, and the debate is likely to continue as long as the legend endures. For many, the search for the Nazi gold train is about more than just treasure. It is a quest for truth, justice, and closure, a hope that what was stolen can be recovered, and that the crimes of the past can be acknowledged and, in some small way, redressed. The legend is a reminder of the enduring power of history, the persistence of memory, and the human desire to uncover secrets and right old wrongs. The story of the Nazi gold train has also inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. From documentaries and novels to Hollywood blockbusters, the image of a lost train laden with gold and art, vanishing into the mountains as the world collapses around it, has become an enduring symbol of the mysteries of World War II. The legend continues to captivate the imagination, drawing new generations into the search. In the next and final section, we will reflect on the enduring mystery of the Nazi gold train, the lessons it holds for our own time, and the remarkable truth that some secrets may never be fully revealed. We will also consider what the search for the train tells us about our relationship with the past, the power of myth, and the hope that, even in the darkest chapters of history, light can still be found. The legend of the Nazi gold train endures, not just as a tantalizing mystery, but as a mirror reflecting our deepest hopes, fears, and questions about the past. Decades after the last shots of World War II were fired, the story continues to inspire treasure hunters, historians, and ordinary people around the world. Why does this legend persist, and what does it reveal about us? Part of the answer lies in the nature of the mystery itself. The Nazi gold train is a story with all the elements of a classic adventure: secret tunnels, lost treasure, coded maps, and the shadowy figures of history's most notorious villains. It is a story that invites us to imagine what might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered. The possibility that a fortune in gold and priceless art, stolen from the victims of one of history's greatest crimes, could still be out there is both thrilling and haunting. But the legend is also a reminder of the unfinished business of history. The gold and art that may lie hidden in the mountains of Poland are not just relics of the past, they are symbols of the lives, cultures, and communities destroyed by the Nazis. For the families of Holocaust victims, the search for lost treasures is a search for justice, for the return of what was stolen, and for the recognition of suffering that can never be fully repaid. For nations whose cultural heritage was plundered, the legend is a call to remember and to reclaim. The search for the Nazi gold train has also become a story about the power of myth. Over the years, the legend has grown, shaped by each new rumor, discovery, and disappointment. It has been fueled by the media, by popular culture, and by the very human desire to believe in the possibility of hidden wonders. The story has become part of the identity of Wałbrzych and the Owl Mountains, drawing visitors from around the world and giving new life to a region once scarred by war. Yet, the legend also raises important questions about how we remember the past. The focus on treasure can sometimes overshadow the real history of the war, the suffering of millions, the destruction of cities, and the crimes of the Nazis. It is important to remember that the gold and art at the heart of the legend were stolen from real people, many of whom never survived to see justice done. The search for the train is in some ways a search for meaning in the face of loss, a hope that what was taken can be restored, and that the darkness of history can be illuminated by the light of discovery. As technology advances, the search for the Nazi gold train continues. New tools, ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and even artificial intelligence offer fresh hope that the mystery might one day be solved. Each new expedition brings the possibility of discovery, but also the risk of disappointment. For some, the search is a quest for riches. For others, it is a mission to uncover the truth, to honor the memory of the victims, and to ensure that the crimes of the past are never forgotten. The story of the Nazi gold train is also a lesson in the power of perseverance. For more than 70 years, people have searched the forests and tunnels of the Owl Mountains, driven by hope, curiosity, and the belief that some secrets are worth uncovering. Their efforts have brought new knowledge, new questions, and new connections between the past and the present. Even when the search has ended in failure, the legend has endured, reminding us that history is not just a record of what has been found, but also of what remains to be discovered. In the end, the Nazi gold train may never be found. It may be a myth, a story born of chaos and fear, or it may be a secret still waiting to be revealed. But the search itself has become part of our collective memory, a symbol of the enduring human desire to seek, to know, and to remember. The legend challenges us to look beneath the surface, to question what we think we know, and to honor the stories of those who came before us. As we reflect on the mystery of the Nazi gold train, we are reminded that history is not just about the past. It is about the choices we make in the present, the values we hold, and the future we hope to build. The search for lost treasure is, in the end, a search for meaning, for justice, and for the truth that connects us all. If you have been captivated by this story, remember that the real treasure of history is not gold or art, but the lessons we learn, the memories we preserve, and the hope we carry forward. The Nazi gold train may remain hidden, but the quest to uncover its secrets continues to inspire, to challenge, and to unite us in the never-ending journey to understand our world.